Ancient fables carry more than moral lessons. Sometimes they preserve fragments of suppressed history, encoded in stories meant to survive when official records vanish. What emerges from declassified documents suggests that certain tales, dismissed as mere folklore, may have originated from events too disturbing for their time to acknowledge openly. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe for more paranormal discoveries. The pastoral hills of ancient Phrygia, in what is now central Turkey, witnessed events during the 7th century before the Common Era that would later be sanitized into one of history's most enduring moral tales. Recent archaeological discoveries and translated fragments from the Gordian excavations reveal a pattern of systematic deception that reached the highest levels of Lydian political power. The settlement of Kellenai sat strategically along trade routes connecting the Lydian capital of Sardis to the eastern provinces. King Aliats II ruled these lands with an iron grip, maintaining control through a network of informants embedded within rural communities. Among these agents was a man known in the fragments only as Alexios, tasked with monitoring shepherd communities for signs of rebellion or foreign infiltration. Alexios employed his young son, barely 12 years old, as an unwitting instrument of political surveillance. The boy was instructed to raise false alarms about wolf attacks on the family's flock, drawing villagers from their homes and workshops. While the community searched the hills for non-existent predators, Lydian agents conducted systematic searches of their dwellings, seeking evidence of seditious activity or correspondence with enemy kingdoms. The deception operated with clockwork precision for several months. Each fabricated wolf attack served as cover for intelligence-gathering operations that mapped the social networks, political sympathies, and economic resources of the rural population. The boy performed his role with the innocent enthusiasm of childhood, unaware that his cries for help facilitated the systematic violation of his neighbors' privacy and security. Archaeological evidence from the Kellenai dig site reveals hidden compartments beneath what were once residential structures, containing scrolls that detail the extent of this surveillance network. The documents describe how Lydian agents catalogued everything from grain stores to family genealogies, building comprehensive profiles of potential threats to royal authority. The wolf deception proved so effective that it was replicated in settlements across the western provinces. The boy's father maintained detailed records of the intelligence gathered during each false alarm, documenting conversations overheard, objects discovered, and behavioral patterns observed among the villagers. These reports, written on clay tablets found in a sealed chamber, reveal the calculating nature of the operation. Every aspect of community life was scrutinized and analyzed for signs of disloyalty or foreign influence. The scheme unraveled when Cimmerian raiders, those fierce horsemen from the northern steppes, began their devastating push into Lydian territory. Unlike the fabricated wolves, these invaders posed a genuine and immediate threat to the isolated farming communities. When the boy raised his alarm about approaching raiders, the villagers had grown so accustomed to his false cries that they dismissed the warning as another government ruse. The Cimmerian attack on Kellenai occurred during the early hours of a market day when the settlement's population was at its highest. The raiders moved with the systematic brutality characteristic of their campaigns, showing no mercy to civilians. Men, women, and children were cut down in the streets, while others fled to the hills, leaving behind everything they had built over generations. The boy and his father were among the casualties of the raid they had failed to prevent. Their bodies were discovered in the ruins of their dwelling, surrounded by the very tablets that documented their betrayal of the community. The irony was not lost on the survivors, who returned to bury their dead and found evidence of the surveillance operation that had compromised their security for months. What transforms this historical tragedy into something far more disturbing is the discovery of additional tablets that suggest the Sumerian raid was not entirely unexpected by Lydian authorities. Correspondence between regional governors indicates that King Aliats had received intelligence about Sumerian movements weeks before the attack on Kelani. The decision to maintain the false wolf operations, despite knowing of the approaching danger, suggests a calculated sacrifice of rural populations to protect more strategically valuable urban centers. The tablets reveal that Lydian military units were quietly withdrawn from forward positions in the days preceding the raid, redeployed to defend major cities and trade routes. The rural communities, already weakened by months of surveillance and infiltration, were effectively abandoned to face the Sumerian onslaught without support or warning. Even more troubling is evidence that some Lydian officials may have actively facilitated the Sumerian advance through their territory. Trade agreements found in the archives suggest negotiations with Sumerian leaders, possibly offering safe passage through certain regions in exchange for avoiding attacks on key Lydian strongholds. The rural settlements, including Kelani, appear to have been deliberately sacrificed as part of these arrangements. The boy's story, stripped of its political context and moral complexity, eventually found its way into the collection of tales attributed to Aesop. The fable that emerged centuries later focused on the simple lesson about the consequences of lying, omitting entirely the governmental surveillance network that had exploited the child's innocence. The transformation of historical tragedy into moral instruction represents one of the most successful examples of political sanitization in ancient literature. Recent analysis of the Kelani tablets using advanced imaging techniques has revealed additional layers of text previously invisible that detail the psychological conditioning methods used to ensure the boy's compliance with the deception. The documents describe techniques for manipulating children's natural desire for attention and approval, turning them into unwitting agents of state surveillance. These methods were apparently refined through experimentation on multiple subjects across different communities. The most disturbing revelation comes from fragments that describe the systematic identification and recruitment of children for these operations. Lydian agents specifically targeted families with young boys who showed signs of imagination, sociability, and a desire for adult approval. These children were gradually conditioned to accept increasingly elaborate deceptions as normal parts of their daily responsibilities. The efficiency of the surveillance network ultimately contributed to its own destruction. By the time genuine external threats materialized, the rural communities had been so thoroughly infiltrated and demoralized that they lacked the social cohesion necessary for effective defense. The very paranoia and mistrust that the surveillance operations were designed to prevent had been inadvertently cultivated within the communities themselves. The archaeological record shows that Kelani was never rebuilt after the Sumerian raid. The site was abandoned, left to decay as a reminder of the price of political cynicism and the manipulation of innocence for state purposes. The tablets were sealed in their underground chamber, where they remained hidden for over 2 millennia, preserving evidence of events that official histories chose to forget. What aspects of this ancient surveillance operation do you find most disturbing when compared to modern governmental practices? Share your thoughts on how historical events become sanitized into moral lessons, and subscribe to explore more cases where folklore may preserve suppressed political truths.